Independence Day. He was up there to see. And I'll tell you the exact words he said. He just put his hands up over his head and said, "Give him hell, boys, give him hell." But that's the way Patton, that's the way he talks. He's rough. But a wonderful general. He's my hero of the war. Even Eisenhower said we could not have won that war without General Patton. We finally broke through the German lines, and our tanks, the 4th Armored Division, were the first ones to break into Bastogne. And our Combat Command A under Colonel Creighton Abrams was the first tanks in there. So the modern tanks is the Abrams tanks. It's named after Colonel Creighton Abrams of the 4th Armored Division because we were the first ones to break through there. It's time for a little bit of humor, I think, before I continue. While I was still in the States, it was New Year's Day, and the officers were having a New Year's Eve party that evening. And this major approached me and asked me to be a bartender at their party for that night. Well, I didn't know how to mix a drink or anything, and he said, just give them something. He says, they don't know what they're drinking after a while anyway, which proved. Anyhow, he showed me how to mix up a couple of drinks and give them to these officers, and after a while they get kind of drunk. And I thought, this is terrible, seeing all these officers drunk. I didn't like that, so this one comes up and wants another drink. I gives him a glass of water with an ice cube in it and a stir and hands it to him. And he walked away, and I thought, oh, I got rid of him. Well, pretty soon he comes back, and I thought, then I was in trouble. But he said, hey, that drink tasted a little different. He said, that was pretty good. Give me another one. So I gave him another glass of water. Pretty soon there was 3 or 4 others come up and said, hey, you got a new drink, and supposed to be good. How about giving us one? So I mixed them up, 3 drinks, one. And they kept coming back. And finally, one guy said, what's the name of that drink? Boy, I was stuck there. What's the name of that drink? I couldn't tell him it was a glass of water. So the only word that came to my mind was shotgun. I said, oh yeah, that's a shotgun. Shotgun, huh? So there they were, out there on the dance floor, glass of water in one hand, kicking up the other one, saying, shotgun, shotgun, shotgun. They were having a ball, and I was just laughing my fool head off. They were so funny, and they were just drunk enough, but they weren't too drunk. But they didn't know they were getting water. They thought it was a new drink called shotgun. And when that major came to take me back to my barracks, he says, to start with, I didn't think we had enough bourbon. But he said, we got lots of bourbon left over, and he can't understand why. Well, I know why. They were drinking water. Anyhow, that was kind of hilarious. Well, we better get back serious now. We got, after Bastogne, the Battle of the Bulge, we headed east again, and we get to the Meuse River, and we're just about out of gas, and we're waiting for our gas supply and ammunition supply and food supply, and it didn't arrive. It always comes at night. We had to gas up at night because we could not have any light, because that would give our position away to the Germans. So we sat there for 9 days without supplies, without gas or ammunition. A little bit of food we had. General Patton told General Eisenhower that he says, my troops are hungry, but they can chew on their belts. But these tanks have got to have gasoline. But we found out that our supplies had been sent over to the British Army instead of us getting it. General Bernard Montgomery of the 1st British Army got it for his operation called Market Garden, which didn't do very much. And in the meantime, it gave the Germans a chance to build up, because they knew that we would start out someday. Well, after 9 days, we got our gasoline. Then we get to the Moselle River, and there they were waiting for us, below the bridge, and we couldn't get across. And they were waiting for us to build a bridge there, and they'd knock it out as fast as we could build it. But our tankers were a little bit smarter. We had enough gasoline. Then we went north up the Meuse River, and we found out where the river went in two channels. So they thought, well, if it's in 2 channels, it can't be near as deep as it is back where they were waiting for us. So this one tanker says, I'll bet you we can cross that without a bridge. So he just drove his tank full force into that river and got out on the other side. So there we found we could cross that river with our tanks without a bridge. So we crossed and then came up around behind them. And there they were, wondering, how in the world did you get across the river? Well, there we were behind their line, so they had to give up. But there's surprise again. We were surprising, there was Germans all the time. One of our biggest battles was at Ericourt, tank battles. When it was over, we counted 251 knocked out German tanks. That was quite a battle, but we found out how to, their tanks were bigger, the Panther and the Tiger tanks were much bigger than ours, but of course a lot slower and clumsier. Where our tanks were the Sherman tanks, we found out we could outmaneuver them, and we were just whizzing all around them, shooting their tracks off, and then they're sitting ducks. And we call it the 19th Tactical Air Force to come in and drop a bomb on them. And we knocked out, I think it was 251 of their vehicles in that one battle. We finally got going, and we crossed the Rhine River at Oppenheim on a pontoon bridge. Now, a pontoon bridge is one built by engineers. It's just steel tracks like this, and they're on little boats, so that you cross the river on these boats, really. And I had to drive my half-track across there at midnight, pitch black. And they got me started, and they said, no, just go straight across, otherwise you're going to end up in the river. So there I am driving across this pontoon bridge at midnight. I made it all right. As you can see, I'm still here. But that was quite an ordeal there too. And we discovered the first concentration camp at Ohrdruf, which is just south of Buchenwald, and of course your biggest one is Auschwitz. But we found the first one, and we couldn't believe ourselves the atrocity of the Germans. You know the word Holocaust, the meaning of it is mass killings of innocent people, and that's exactly what the concentrations were. They were killing the Jewish people by 1,000. I think there was even in the millions before the war was over that they killed. And I know I've been through the gas chambers at another camp at Mauthausen, So I've seen it. I believe it. Don't ever let this world forget the Holocaust. It was such a terrible, terrible thing. After we crossed into Germany at Oppenheim, the rest was fairly easy because then we were in German territory and most of their fighting material was in France. So we just breezed right on through pretty good until we even got into Czechoslovakia. We got as far as Písek, Czechoslovakia, and they pulled us back to Strakonec. And we were